for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. Hope you all had a very nice Christmas and a happy New Year. Our job is to make sure that this new year is very fruitful for you, that you got a lot of money poured into those pockets. And Scott Shapiro, Gino Bacola here with you from the Daily Racing Form. Scott, when the calendar turns in the horse racing world, we really start to focus on the Kentucky Derby and getting qualified for that big race. There's all these different points qualifying races over the next few months to try to get horses qualified for the Derby. And in our show, we kind of have like a mini little preview for 3-year-olds. We're going to get to talk about all these boys that are trying to win some points and get a spot in the Derby. 2 of the 3 races we'll preview will actually have points up for grabs.
Yeah, it's my favorite time of year to kind of watch these horses try to grow. Obviously, everybody that ever watches a horse race is looking forward to the Kentucky Derby most when it comes to the calendar year. So we're all real excited. You start to get excited for that race, and it's fun to just watch these horses grow and hopefully make some money along the way.
Also a great time to be a sports fan right now. Daily Racing Form is not just about horse racing. We also have a sports betting section. If you click on that sports betting section on the front page, it'll take you right to a spot where you'll see sports betting reviews. You'll see links that'll take you to the sports books, and it'll give you wagers. It'll give you opportunities for offers. You can save up to $5,000, suggested wagers, all the help that you need if you are someone that's playing sports. Let's get on over to our focus for this first segment. It's going to be out at Oaklawn Park. It's going to be race 10 on Saturday, January the 3rd. It's the Smarty Jones. Scott, Oaklawn has really improved the last 10 years or so, how they become a destination for horses trying to get to the Kentucky Derby. A lot of horses run through there. We'll start with the number 1, Universe. One of the more accomplished horses in the field, Scott. He's multiple graded stakes placed. He just doesn't have his big win yet. He lost to a horse named Further Ado most recently, who our colleague Marcus Hirsch has ranked as the number 5 horse in their division based on age group. So, I mean, he's been facing some of the better horses in the group. I think he's got some versatility. He seems like a contender, a logical contender in this spot.
Absolutely. He draws positively inside. And if you go back and watch his races, it's really hard to knock any of them. His first race, he won. He took advantage of a good setup and won going away. Then the Champagne, he ran into a buzzsaw with Napoleon Solo, who dominated on the front end. And then Kenny McPeak takes the blinkers off, and he's gotten better at finishing races since. And like you said, the second to Further Ado got a good setup that day. He makes as much sense as anybody in here.
He's got some versatility, too. He showed us he can sit close. Last time he had a bad start. He came from way out of it, too. So I think he can win in different ways. Baytown Dreamer is going to get back to dirt. The problem I have with him, though, Scott, his lone win came going a mile on the turf at Ellis versus Maidens. And since then, I really haven't seen the progression all that much. He was okay in the juvenile mile at Kentucky.
Yeah, Paul McEntee's a trainer that likes to take shots. Occasionally, they will work out for him, but they're usually tough to get to his horses. I agree. That lone win won't be anything like what he sees today. He's very unlikely to be loose on the lead.
I thought this race was competitive. I really thought you could make a case for maybe 5 or 6 different horses jumping up and winning. I mean, a horse like Boca Beach Club has only gone 5 and 5.5 furlongs, but both of those races were very good, including this runner-up Everett that we're watching right here, Scott. This was in the Advent Stakes on December the 12th, was last early after a slow start, moved 3 wide all the way up to second. I thought was a very solid second that day. When you look at the pedigree of this horse, he's a half to a horse that is a multiple graded stakes placed runner going long, won 3 times going long. And he's also a half to a grade 1 winner, a group 1 winner in Mexico who won going long, and another horse who won going 1 mile and an 1/8. So I actually think distance should be fine for him stretching out. It's kind of a lot to ask sometimes going from 5.5 all the way to 1 mile and a 1/16.
I agree with just about everything you said. I mean, the pedigree should be there. He galloped out very nicely in that race, and he ran really hard in the middle of the race. My biggest concern with him at this point, other than what you presented, is just it's a lot to ask, is, he hasn't gotten out of the gates all that well, and he's going to want to be involved early. So he could kind of have to be rushed up and move a little bit too early. But overall, I like this horse. I think Jimmy DeVito's a better trainer than some of the numbers might suggest in this spot. He's pretty live, this horse.
Boca Beach Club has to answer the distance question. Silent Tactic has to answer the surface question, because he's been good in his 2 starts up on the synthetic at Woodbine. He finished second in a grade 3 behind a heavy favorite that day. And he actually had kind of a toughish trip. He had to back out of a tight spot. He came through legit traffic and angled around. What do you do with Silent Tactic in here?
I think you got, I mean, the price, at least on the morning line, suggests that, you don't want to just toss 12 to 1 shots they spent 500K for, because they unlikely didn't spend the 500K thinking he was just going to be an all weather horse at Woodbine. That said, he's lacked speed out of the gate. Those are 2-turn races. I
Yes.
wonder how far out of it he's going to be. The bottom side pedigree, you look at it, it's the first foal of the dam, but the dam was a half to Mraz, a horse that you and I remember from out west, who was, good at both distances. So there's a chance this horse takes to the situation. It would all be price sensitive to me, but it is going to a lot to ask once again.
Rancho Santa Fe has done nothing wrong in 2 starts. He broke his maiden at Ellis Park. Then he came back at Keeneland in his second start. It was a really nice effort. He actually got floated out about 4 or 5 wide into the first turn. He settled nicely about 3 lengths off. He made an early move, and he just sustained that throughout. And 2 of the horses he beat came right back to win their next start. Scott, that horse who he's going by, Infiltrate, came back to win an allowance. Non-winners of 2 at Churchill with a 74 buyer speed figure. Grand Mahogany won a non-winners of 2 allowance next out at Indy. I mean, he just looks really good on paper.
He sure does, and I don't think the distances, things get tougher, things get further, are going to be much of a challenge for him. He's gone longer than those distances because he's been wide in both of his races. Now, it is important to note, if you watch those, the August 24th race, Ellis Park, you did want to be outside. There was a major bias there, so it helped them probably. But he was 5 wide in the first turn and was still finishing better than the competition at Keeneland last time. He makes sense as the favorite in here. These horses generally take a little bit more money, though, because of the barn, and that makes them a little bit tough to get excited about betting.
Oscar's Hope has never run a bad race in his 5 starts, and now he's going for 3 consecutive wins. He just won the John Lafitte at Delta Downs, and he was the heavy favorite that day. But he's not a Delta horse. He went over there for Tom Amis. He actually began his career at Saratoga. He won a race at Churchill Downs, and he performed very well at Keeneland. So he's a little interesting to me. What I do like about him, Scott, is that he got a race at Delta, which is that format of that track is 2 turns going 7.5. So it's sort of like a nice stepping stone for him, trying to stretch out to the mile and a 16th. I feel like he'll be part of the early pace. Not quite sure how good he is. What are your thoughts on Oscar?
I think he's a good horse based on the way Tom taking him to Saratoga, like you said, keeping him in Kentucky. Delta has nothing to do with it. He just won $100,000 stakes there. He's going to be involved early. The way Tom's managed him early, I wonder if he's a 2-turn horse, but this is a good chance to try it in and a good time early in the season and the short stretch.
We move to Strategic Wrist. He's a Florida bred. He really put it all together when he won going a mile and a 16th on the dirt last time out. And so you see his form is bookended by 2 monster wins. One of them going 5 furlongs on the dirt first time out. He wins by 8.5. And then when he goes a mile and a 16th on the dirt, he wins by 9. My biggest issue, Scott, is both of those were against Florida breds. The races when we've seen him step up against open company, he just hasn't been quite as good.
Right. You can also, I agree with everything said. The one thing is that horse Roger, that Dana, who ran 3rd in that race, you can get a little bit of a gauge. Maybe that horse runs about 45 minutes earlier than Mucho, Macho, man. So yeah, I agree. I like the horse more last time than I do this time on the step up.
Scarship is a Louisiana bred who is stretching out from sprint races. He's going to put the blinkers on. His dam won races from 6 furlongs to a mile, and Sibs won going long, but I think he's in here to go, right? Blinkers on. He's going to try to set the pace.
Yeah, this horse is his only chance is to go. I mean, we'll see how good he is. We'll see. Sprinty pedigree, like you said, both sides. I'm against this horse, but he's going to probably be the biggest price on the board.
Rounding out the field, Sleeping on Freedom. He broke his maiden in a restricted maiden race at Keeneland, so it wasn't quite as tough. But I will say his last 2 races, they've visually been pretty impressive, especially the November 22nd race where he got shuffled back. He kind of had to sit. He moved to the outside. He waited. It was visually impressive. Is he quite this good, Scott? And he's drawn to the outside.
Well, one thing I want to say is that the 2 will be a bigger price. Sorry about that. And Sleeping on Freedom, I think, is most interesting because Brian Hernandez Jr. opts to ride him over the One Universe. Rode them both. Kenny McPeak's main man, as we know. I think Sleeping on Freedom is live, maybe just better than they thought. They got into good auction spots early in the career and took advantage.
Yeah, it's a pretty competitive race. I really think you can make a case for 5 or 6 different horses in here. You'll see Scott's going to land on the 99153. I'm going to go with the 3 Boca Beach Club 3561. You don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll head over to Gulfstream Park. got more 3-year-olds to discuss coming up, but this is the one race that we're going to talk about that actually doesn't have the Kentucky Derby points on the line, Scott, but it is still a race that horses use to try to prep and get on their way to the Kentucky Derby. And shout out to Mucho Macho, man. He was my Kentucky Derby pick the year that he ran. He was a fun one as well, and a horse that I really liked quite a bit. Scott, let's get into the Mucho Macho, man. It's going to go as race number 10. It's a 1-turn mile on Saturday, January the 3rd, over at Gulfstream Park. And we'll start out with the 1 Commandment. This horse most recently broke his maiden over at Churchill Downs. I thought it was a pretty nice effort from him. He was inside. He kind of pushed all the way through just behind the leaders. Things got a little bit tight for him, so he had to wait. As soon as it opened up, he made a move. It showed that he kind of has multiple dimensions, I think, and he's a little bit handy. And his dam was a classy one. She was a grade 1 winner. She won the Spinaway. What do you think about Commandment in here?
Yeah, this is the horse of those, even though it's not for Derby points, of those in the field, whether you like her or don't from a betting perspective today, I think the best Derby prospect in the field has progressed nicely, got a real good learning experience. It's a very high quality maiden field on debut, and then really put it together in that second start, like you mentioned. I think he's the clear one to beat in here. We don't have the morning lines yet, but I expect him to be favored.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we looked at this race a few months down the line and went back, this would be the horse that we think could get there of all of them, just on paper, on pedigree. We get to the 2 Cabourg. He opened up a 5-length early lead last time out in pretty reasonable fractions, and he just couldn't seal the deal there. I didn't see any real excuses. Now, that was his first start going long, so now second time going long, I'm sure he'll be a little more fit. And he did lose to Oscar's Hope 2 starts back. We just previewed Oscar's Hope as a player in the Smarty Jones. What do you think about Cabourg?
Yeah, that last race is very tough. He was 3-5 in there. And not only did he give up the race, like you said, with not really going all that fast, he didn't relax. And then he gave it up to 2 horses. I know it says he finished second by a neck, but there was a 3-horse blanket. And when there's 2 horses, that kind of suggests to me that it was him tiring more than the other horses making these, great runs. So he is tough for me to get excited about. Junior Alvarado, maybe with a different touch, can relax him a little different way. But that last race was tough.
Barn that's very good with their 2-year-olds, and now these are 3-year-olds as the calendar turn, is the George Weaver barn. He trains the 3 Epic Summer. Epic Summer only raced 1 time, but it was very good over at Belmont and Aqueduct. He was down towards the inside, and he pushed up to the lead with 2 to the outside pressing him. So he had to deal with a lot of pressure. He put those horses away, and then he was able to draw off pretty nicely in the end. And he beat 2 next out winners, Scott, horses who came back to win next time out with an 86 buyer. And then the 6th place finisher came back to win with an 82 buyer. That shows you it might have been a very strong race that he won.
There's not a lot to knock. He was 9-1 in the race. We just saw it. He's showing a lot of grit. They ran 1, 2, 3 around the track, but he put away the other speeds quite easily. My biggest concern is he missed a month of public training from November 21st to December 19th, and I'm just wondering how that'll impact his chances.
Yeah, is this going to be a race where he's a good second, maybe needs the race, and then you play him the next time when he comes back and he's a little bit fitter, has a little more bottom? We get to Mr. Hooligan. In his debut and in his second start, he lost to very nice horses. He debuted and lost to a horse named the Big Con, who's a grade 3 winner and is 2 for 2. Then in his second start, he lost to Stop the Car, who came back to win next time out at Churchill Downs with an 80 buyer speed figure. I just haven't really seen a whole lot from him, though, in all 3 of his starts now. He was okay at Tampa last time out. Now he'll stretch out. I just didn't know what to do with him.
Well, the barn had a positive year ROI with a lot of starters in 2025, so I don't want to question them, but man, he doesn't seem like he's spotted in the right spot here. This is a stakes race, open company, and he's 0 for 3. He might be, I assume he's going to be running on late or he wouldn't be in this field, but that's about all I can guarantee.
Yeah, he's a maiden who hasn't been closer than beaten 6.5 lengths in any of his 3 starts yet. We move to Roger That Dana. He's shown good speed in his 2 starts. Most recently, he went longer against Florida breds. He actually was behind Strategic Risk, who we were just talking about earlier over at Oaklawn Park. Roger That Dana looks like a speed who gets a slight cutback, but he will have to face open company here.
This is a lot to ask on a turn back when you're a speed horse. Now it's going to be tougher for him to get to the front. He got there pretty easily last time. This was that horse, like you said, that I was talking about. You can watch before if you want to, compare to Strategic Risk, who did kill him in that race. But I think this horse is pretty legitimate. We know we can get 2 turns, so maybe he can get, hang around for a piece. On the win end, I'd be pretty surprised, Gino.
Next up is Trips Promise. I think he has a little bit of ability, Scott. He wins his career debut. Then in his second start, he's well defeated by a horse that you and I liked a little bit in the Kentucky Jockey Club, Soldier and Diplomat, who ran third that day. And then most recently, he ran into Stop the Car, who I had just mentioned. He bobbled at the start. He doesn't have to be as far back as he was in his most recent race. He came rolling late up the rail to just miss second. What are your thoughts on Trips Promise?
Well, I think there's pace in here, and I think you got a real good rider for the trip you're going to want to get. I think Corey Lanery, like he has in a couple of these other starts, is going to save ground and just try to pass as many horses as possible. He's got a shot to pass them all. I think it's going to be tough for him to outkick Commandment, but he's going to be a much better price.
Blame Yourself got the lead inside, about a half length advantage over the 2-5 favorite, got challenged at the top of the lane and was able to put away the big favorite in the final stages of that race. I thought it was a fine debut at Gulfstream Park. What are your thoughts on Blame Yourself?
He's bred to get 2 turns. You got to like that. 7 furlongs, not an easy distance to win at. He ran hard in that race, and it maybe shows that why he was on the sidelines since then. So I think, coming back and running that race or running better against this group, on a hot class rise is a lot to ask, but we really don't know how much talent he has yet.
Max Capacity is the next one. He comes in off of a runner-up effort in the inaugural at Tampa, but he was well defeated that day, and he came from way, way out of it. We'll say he had a pretty nice gallop out, though, after closing from about 12 off and picking up some pieces late. I don't think he's run really any races fast enough to beat a field like this yet, though.
Right, and the pedigree to me is a little sprinty. Maybe it was a good sign last race, the way it worked out, forced him to relax. He'd been up to close to the pace, which I think would give him virtually no shot in here. So maybe he can settle and finish, and this barn has a couple of winners already at the meet.
We round out the field with Thunder Chuck, who was off for a few months and then showed back up in the juvenile sprint at Gulfstream on November 22nd. He was a pretty solid second that day. He kind of had to angle around. It was a small field, but he will really need to improve off of that to be competitive in here.
I think the move to an outside post, he's been down on the inside as a young horse. His last 3 starts might work out well for him, might allow David Egan to relax him off the pace, which could work. I think that's his best chance to be any sort of factor.
Let's move to selections for this one. I think Commandment's probably the horse to beat in here. You've got Commandment on top, but we both give a little bit of a nod to Trips Promise as a horse that may be able to give you some value here and spice some things up. So 1659 for Scott, 6312 for me. Don't go anywhere. We'll head to Aqueduct for our final segment. Oh, we just experienced the new year, but Daily Racing Form has a New Year's sale all the way through January the 6th. What's great about this sale is you can use the sale now and you can stack products that you will use next week, next month, a couple months down the line. Scott, it's a really great time of the year for horse players because when you think about Santa Anita, Gulfstream Park, those are tracks that are going to have a lot of races for young horses, maiden races, horses trying to get towards the Derby. We have clocker reports each and every day, past performances, Time Farm US, like all the tools that you need are right there on sale. You might as well take advantage right now.
Without question, you've got the Pegasus coming up at Gulfstream, obviously big cards at Santa Anita. You mentioned Oaklawn. We were with the Smarty Jones. There's big Derby preps and some bigger races for older horses there. So very good time to take advantage of this offer.
Just use that coupon code NEW2026 when you head to shop.drf.com. We're very excited about one of the new tools that Daily Racing Form has to offer, and that's DRF AI. You can ask DRF AI anything you want about the races, and it will help you out. One example that I'll give, I'm someone who is always trying to find a big price if I can. So I'll ask DRF AI when I'm looking at Gulfstream Park for Saturday, can you find me a couple horses in the late pick 4 that are double-digit odds on the morning line, and then I can take a second look at those horses. I can really find the ones out of them that I like that I think are valid and have a shot there. Ask DRF AI. It will help you in any way, shape, or form. So we'll move to the Jerome. Scott, it's just a small field that we have to preview. It's only going to be a field of 4 when it's actually run because the number 5, Mylotta, raced on Tuesday over at Parks. We had a fictional athlete and then a very, very good real athlete drawn on the outside here with Balboa and Mylotta. But this race does offer Kentucky Derby points. And one thing you and I were talking about, when the field is smaller than 5, the Kentucky Derby points actually get reduced. So this race will offer points, but it will not offer the same amount of points as some of these other early preps.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing either. It has intent. And in this case, I think, not the strongest Jerome will ever see. We're still going to try to pick the winner, but maybe not the best gambling race either. But once again, one of these horses could find their way to the starting gate to Kentucky or at least make an impact along the way.
It just shows you the different circuits, right? I mean, we had pretty competitive races to talk about at Oaklawn Park and the Smarty Jones, and a pretty sizable field at Gulfstream Park as well. But this one just drew a very small field for the Jerome. Let's start things out with Enforced Agenda. He's only raced once, but I thought his debut was pretty good. He was 5th early, a couple lengths off. He angled to the outside. He made a 3-wide challenge just outside the pace setter. He sustained that bid up to lead in early stretch. I thought he was still a little bit green in this race too, but showed some ability. So I think there's still some upside here.
No, the greenness is very what I noticed as well, and that can often work to his advantage because it means he still ran well while still learning. Now,
Despite that stuff, right? Yeah.
right, he was 23-1 in that race, and I didn't love how he responded when he was down on the inside. It looked like he needed to get out on the inside, out off the rail, so that could present some problems here. But he looks like he has some upside to me.
Yeah, we move to Freedom's Echo. He would be the one of the 4 left. That would surprise me here, Scott, because his win came at Parks in a race where they went really slow early on and he got the lead. And he just doesn't really seem like he stacks up all that well with the other 3 in here.
You look at the past performances, they tell you a big story. This horse lost by 17 lengths on debut, dropped into a race where he was made the 2-1 favorite and got to set very slow fractions. I mean, this is a huge step up, even though it isn't the strongest edition of this race.
We move to the 3, My World. He's a major player. He has won back-to-back races, including the Nashua right here. And he did it pretty professionally, kind of workmanlike in this race. He was 2nd. He was pressing the pace setter. He moved to the lead without really being asked going into the stretch. And then he put away a big challenge on the outside from the runner-up and was able to draw on. So, he doesn't have big speed figures or anything. He's just been very solid. I like the fact that he showed us he could get the mile last time out, and I think he is probably the horse to beat in here.
He sure is the horse to beat. I mean, the Dam Quebec we both remember as a turf horse for the Richard Balthus barn back in the day. Interesting pedigree. I think, if this horse wins going away, I'm going to, maybe take note of that and maybe knock it a little because I just don't know what's behind him, but I expect him to be able to beat this field.
If I could change and you could change, we all could change. Balboa on the outside. He's cutting back from the Remsen last time out. He moved up to contend, but he just seemed like the 1 1/8 was a little bit too much for him at the end, Scott. I think the cutback will help. The draw will help. I really don't know how good he is overall, but it's a pretty good spot for him.
Interesting. He's already left the Bob Baffert barn, $875,000 purchase. He should be involved early. I also don't know how good he is, but like I said, he'll be showing some speed of some sort, and the ground should not be an issue.
Yeah, I thought the other 2 races were a lot more bettable than this particular race. You and I are both going to land on My World. There really won't offer you a whole lot of value with those 3 horses. So 3-4-1 for Scott, 3-1-4 for me. Happy New Year to all of you. We'll see you right back next week on the Weekend Preview.